And if you can take the challenges that you experience in your life and see the gift that is inside of them, right? Because a lot of times we have challenges, right? We grow up in crazy, crazy situations, really crazy situations. Like when I grew up, I had some just crazy, crazy situations. When I was 11 years old, I was doing drugs, right? I was like doing a bunch of drugs in the neighborhood with my brother and his friends. And when I was 12, I had this experience. It was a horrible, horrible experience where I was living in this condo with my mom, and she was divorced from my dad at the time. And I actually had a stepdad that lived there. And then my brother and I shared this room together. And my brother and I were doing lots of drugs at the time. And he came in, and I was sleeping one night, and he came in drugged out of his mind and just started beating on me, right? He just started just beating me, right? Just hitting me over and over and over. And I remember waking up, and I don't think I've actually ever told anybody about this before. But I was screaming, right? I was just screaming for help. And I was yelling at the top of my lungs because my mom was in the bedroom next door, right? There's like a bathroom and then there was a bedroom. And it was the middle of the night. And so I was just screaming for help. But nobody ever came, right? Nobody ever came to help me. And at some point, my brother just passed out, and I was just like laying in bed crying. And I like at the time, it's like after that, right? Like I felt like I had nobody, right? Like I had nobody that I could count on, nobody that I could rely on in my life. And it was the next year when my mom like took me over to my dad's house one day and just left me there. And then my dad ended up sending me like, I'm like getting really personal here. My dad ended up sending me to go to because I was a crazy kid. I mean, I was out of my mind at that point. I was angry. I felt like I was just abandoned by my mother. And I was living with my dad, and my dad sent me to go live in a psychiatric ward for about, I think it was like 6 to 8 months or something like that. And I like really became numb when I was there. And I learned that I had to shut down all my emotions. And when I got back to living with my dad again, he went and sent me to go live with my grandmother, right? And so I had this crazy like thing where it was like my brother, who was like my best friend at the time, totally betrayed me. And then my mother like just dropped me off at my dad's place one day and never came back, right? And then my dad like sent me to go like live in this like psychiatric ward, right? And then he like sent me to go live with my grandma, who was like this old lady, right? And so I felt like I was like abandoned by all these people in my life. But and for a long time in my life, that's actually what inspired me to go after my dreams and create amazing things in my life. And I accomplished all the great things that I accomplished in my life, and I accomplished a lot of stuff. And I did it because I wanted to feel like I was worthy, right? I wanted to feel like I was worthy of love, like I was enough for somebody. And it was that pain that kind of drove me into a lot of the dating advice stuff and the relationship stuff and going into myself and learning about myself and developing all these skills around dating and relationships, and then going into my past and actually, figuring out how to heal from a real way. Because, coming from that space, it doesn't matter how much you achieve. It doesn't matter what you do. You're never going to be enough. You're never going to be enough when you come from a story of abandonment, a story of feeling like you're not enough, and, feeling like you have to prove yourself in order to get love. You'll never, ever, ever get there. And so you have to go back before that. right? And before that, I remembered a time when I was fully loved by everybody. And this kind of goes back to somebody else's question that they're asking earlier, like what was my moment, April's question. The first moment that I remember of really feeling loved was this experience when I was a kid, and I was at this wedding, and I was in Michigan at the time because that's where my mother's family lived. And I remember I don't know how old I was. I must have been like 5 years old or something. And I remember there's still pictures of it somewhere. And I had like this my hair was actually almost exactly like it is right now, actually. But it was blonde because I was a blonde boy. I was a blonde kid. And I had these big glasses, and they like put me in this tuxedo, and I'm like walking around in this tuxedo, right? And like everybody's like, oh my God, this kid is so adorable. I wish I had a photo here right now so that I could show you of what I looked like at this time. And like all these people are like looking at me, and they're just like, oh my God, you're such a cool kid. And they're giving me high fives and hugging me, right? And I'm getting all this attention. And I remember my parents just being so proud of me, just being so much like, man, this kid is awesome. Right. And I like kind of got into my mom's mind, and like looked at myself, and I was just like, man, this is my son, this is my beautiful son. And I love him so much. My dad looking at me and being so proud and being like, yeah, like this is my son, this is him right here. And, that for me made me realize that I don't have a story of abandonment. Like I didn't come from a place of being abandoned. I came from a place of being born in love. And my parents loved me when I was a kid. And things got messed up, and I was a bad kid, and my parents did the best thing that they knew how to do. They were trying to do their best. And my brother was out of his mind, and I've talked to all of these people about all these different things, if you guys are wondering at all. And it's really one of those things where you can come from love. I don't know what your situation is. I have no idea. I'm guessing that there are people out there who have much more challenging situations than anything that I came from. And, there's at some point in your life, before all the pain, there was a time when you were loved. And if that wasn't true, you wouldn't be here right now, because you had to be loved enough by somebody in order to survive for at least the first few years of your life. And so if you can remember that time, remember the time before the pain, remember the time before you made up a story about yourself, about not being enough, about not being worthy, about not being good enough, about not being lovable, about having something that's wrong with you. If you can go before all of that and remember a time that actually existed, you can remember that you were also born in love, and that somebody loved you, and that you are lovable, and that you are enough. And so my suggestion is that you go into that, and that you find that space for yourself. Because if you can change your story and change the way that you see yourself and your life growing up and who you are, and then see the blessing that came out of whatever challenges you've had in your life, that will serve you. that will serve you. So I think I ran off on a tangent here. Ran off on a little bit of a tangent here. So let's see what other people have to say.